Captain to bridge.
Spock here.
Any signs of life?
Negative.
Have you tried all hailing frequencies?
Affirmative. No answer from the cube.
Have the department heads meet me on the bridge.
Already standing by.
Life sciences.
Same report.
So are we gonna just let it hold us here? We've got phaser weapons. I vote we blast it.
I'll keep that in mind, Mr. Bailey. When this becomes a democracy.
You realize that the aim will, of course, be very crude.
I don't care if you hit the broadside of a barn. Just hurry, please.
Captain, why should I aim at such a structure?
Mind, Spock. Just get on with the job.
I hereby grant you top secret clearance to Project Hail Mary.
What's Project Hail Mary?
The sun is dying. If we do nothing, everything on this planet will go extinct. This mission is what you Americans would call a long shot.
Hail Mary. I get it now.
Project Hail Mary, only theaters March 20th.
Hey guys, what's going on? You are listening to ThisWeekInGeek.net, and welcome to Future Imperfect. This is the show where we talk about all things science, science fiction, speculative fiction, and all things that usually involve, well, stuff that means I'm not the most intelligent person to talk about it, but I try anyway. My name is Mike the Birdman, but I'm not alone as I trek through the stars this evening, though not Star Trek, surprisingly. I'm joined by my good friend, my brother, my compatriot from another city, from the city of Kitchener, Ontario, Canada.
Alex, the producer.
And welcoming once again back to the show, the smartest person that I know from the wonderful land of Lansing, Michigan.
I'm Aaron Pollyea.
And guys, tonight we're going to do something a little bit special. So recently in theaters back in March, a movie was released that I saw the trailer for and I didn't quite know what to make about it. Then I found out it was based upon a book. And recently, I started to get into this actor's back catalog. I started watching some Ryan Gosling movies. I finally sat down and watched Blade Runner 2049. I'm not sure if that episode's aired yet, but we do talk about that on a loose cannon. But the movie we're going to be talking about tonight is Project Hail Mary, which is based upon the book of the same name. This came out back in March of this year for Ultra AVX, enhanced theaters, but also IMAX. I had a chance to see this in AVX. I believe, as of this recording, Alex, it's coming out on premium home VOD fairly soon, if it's not available already.
It doesn't have an exact date because they were going to pull it from theaters, and as of this recording, it's gone back to premium IMAX for at least another week or two.
Yeah, like this movie, I really didn't know what to think until I saw it literally on a whim. I went on like a Sunday afternoon a couple of weeks ago, and I honestly had no idea what it was about. The marketing kind of gave an idea what the story was about, but not really.
I'll say this. I didn't know, that it was based on a book or that it was based on a same writer as a famous other works. And I didn't know that. I saw the trailers because, you know me, I'm always trolling for trailers whenever there's new stuff, like what's going to come out and what's going to be good. And I wrote it off. I went, this looks bad. The trailers made it look really cheesy and really like, you know what it made it feel like to me? It looked like one of those Chris Pratt direct to Prime Video streaming, let's money launder $200 million by making something terrible kind of movie. Wow. Or like during the pandemic when Mark Wahlberg was doing stuff for Paramount, and it was like two or three of these gigantic, it was Infinity or something. These terrible like stuff that looked like the Roland Emmerich garbage. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know. This one looks a little better, but the trailer made it look like the trailer does not sell what the movie is at all.
Yeah,
and I was like, this was a bad. I feel it had really bad marketing, and then really, really, really good word of mouth.
Yeah,
and that's what saved it.
I don't know. I think the trailer was fine for what it is, but I don't think it was meant to be seen by general audiences. It was meant to be seen by people who had read the book.
Yeah, when I went in, I think, was this the same gentleman that wrote The Martian?
Yeah.
Yeah, when I found that out, because me and my wife Blair have a very big fondness for The Martian. It was the first movie we watched in our apartment when we first moved here to Guelph, like 10 years ago, and it's just always been a favorite of ours. So I'm like, okay, I'm willing to give it a shot. And then when I found out who the directors were, I'm like, all right, you've got my attention. But what really sold me on it is when I saw Blade Runner 2049 a couple of weeks ago, and I was like, I really like Ryan Gosling. I'm like, all right. So I went to go see it, and I haven't had that emotional an experience at the movies in what feels like forever. Because I will admit, I did cry during this, and I even have teared up during some of the Marvel stuff. But this hit differently. Like, I didn't expect to be as emotionally invested in this as I was. Like, Alex, you're right. Like, the trailer didn't really sell what it was, but kind of like to like Aaron's point, if you knew what the book was about, you probably knew what you were getting into. So I don't think the marketing did a really good job of this. And there was weirdly
as somebody
like
who was blind, like who had no knowledge of anything going in, I went, my view of it was, okay, it's a Ryan Gosling movie. Where is it going to be good Ryan Gosling, or is it going to be phoned in smug Ryan Gosling? Because he does occasionally have movies where it's like, oh, he doesn't care about this. And it was just, I felt that the editing of the trailer was a little off, and I just didn't, I don't know, it didn't connect with me, and I feel like it did a disservice. Sometimes movie trailers can do really well to suck people in.
Yeah.
And when I saw this, I went, this could be a good movie. I don't know. It's before the reviews all came out for it. And I was like, this could be a good movie, but this could also just be very generic. And we've talked on the show in past episodes over the last year or two, where some of the biggest, most big budget sci-fi epics, and I'm not talking like space shoot bang bang, we're talking like Interstellar and stuff, where we went, these should be great, and you watched them and they were so like either disappointing or flat.
Yeah, because like
those all had great trailers to suck you in. So this is kind of the opposite, where I feel like the trailer wasn't as well thought out or fantastic to grab and hook an audience of like completely new people, and then it turns out the movie, spoiler no spoiler, it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's very good. Yeah.
Yeah, like when I started looking at some of the marketing surrounding this, I was surprised that certain cinema chains had like popcorn buckets for it, because I'm thinking this doesn't seem like the type of movie that would go with that type of marketing, right? That's like your SpongeBob's, your Transformers, your Spider-Man, your whatever, right? Like your big tentpole movies. You wouldn't find what is essentially a buddy movie, a buddy dramedy with a sci-fi edge is what I would call this. And we got popcorn buckets, we got drink things for it, like something right out of like CinemaCon. And when I went to the theaters to see this, I kind of thought some of the science was a little weird. I'm going to throw to Aaron on this, because obviously, Aaron, you have a background in science. You and I both write for Star Trek, so we're both pretty smart people. What did you think of some of the science in this? Because I thought the idea of the astrophage was kind of fantastical, very Star Trekky, but I'm going to guess not based in any sort of real life sort of stuff.
It isn't real. I mean, the astrophage, I would say, would be darn near impossible to actually exist, because you're talking about something that lives in the photosphere of a star, which is incredibly hot plasma. So how is it water-based? First of all. And then the other big problem with, well, maybe I should continue on with the astrophage, in that how is it being directed at a specific planet when the solar wind is actually going to have much more energy pushing these things away from the photosphere than any kind of propulsion it could have. So there's I raise my eyebrow at all that. I understand it's like a story, for it needs to do these things for the story, but it also doesn't. So whatever. The whole idea that they spread through space at like out to 8 light years. And that's how they figure out that it came Tau Ceti, everything came from Tau Ceti or whatever, not Tau Ceti, whatever, wherever it was from. That means the entire galaxy is infected. Like, how is it only this little bubble of stars?
Yeah, there was I'm kind of looking at thinking that's a little fantastic, but I kind of like how one thing I really liked about this is it raised the stakes. Obviously, they're like, yeah, the sun's going to get dimmer. It's not going to die, but we are, because it's going to change conditions on Earth so radically. It would lower the temperature. Crops won't survive.
Yeah. And I looked over at Darlene and I said, and they don't build solar mirrors. Why?
Yeah. Cause there was another movie. I think when we did our conversation about Interstellar, there's the discussion about the sun's solar activity cycle changing. And even right now, as far as I understand, Aaron, you'll have to correct me if the science is wrong on this one, but I recall our sun operates in solar cycles. And
Sure. Mm-hmm.
as our sun gets older and as we as a planet get older, that temperature is going to change. So how Earth might be today with our current temperature, I think the average median temperature on the Earth is something like 21 degrees or 22, something like that. When the sun gets hotter, our median temperature is going to rise along with it, which means, we think humanity is going to be here in 50,000 years. I don't believe so. Simply just planetary and solar.
Yeah, but that won't have anything to do with the solar cycle. Solar cycles are on 11-year cycles, and if you're talking about the sun changing temperature, that's over millions of years.
Yeah. I thought it was getting hotter every 1,000, not by huge magnitudes, but enough that it would be noticeable.
Well, sure. Every moment that the sun burns, hydrogen, it's going to get a little warmer. Well, I should say a little brighter, not warmer.
And
just
and
because
we're more likely in the next 50,000 years, Michael, to have caused us to be here or not.
Exactly.
More than outside forces.
Yeah, it's funny how much Project Hail Mary made me go down the science rabbit hole. I started looking things up. I started looking up the star that Rocky, who's the other protagonist of this movie, who is in,
and we should
Iridian, I guess.
Preface it by saying that this is going to be a very big spoilery talk.
Yeah.
Usually we talk about old stuff, so we don't have to mention that. But this being current, if you haven't seen the movie yet and have the means to and want to, or if you don't want to be spoiled, go watch it now and then come back and listen to this. Otherwise, stick along for the ride.
So pretty much from here on out, we're going to talk about spoilers, what everybody thought. So I guess it's pretty clear how I felt about this. So we'll go to Aaron and then Alex. What did you think, Aaron, when you sat down to watch this movie?
I pretty much knew what to expect from it, just because of the book. I actually really enjoyed this. This was pretty much the polar opposite from what I felt about Interstellar, where Interstellar was plotting and sort of boring, and I kept thinking, get on with it. This was, you wanted these moments to last longer. You wanted to be with these two characters that the movie basically spends the entire time with, and only one human character that the vast majority of the movie takes part with. You want more time. You want to know more about these people. And I think it does an extraordinarily good job. I might nitpick some of the science or whatever, but in the end, I don't think it really is necessarily a science fiction story at its forefront. It's a story about the human condition. It's how a person kind of learns more about themselves and grows to be comfortable with themselves.
It's the movie is basically about selfishness and how to overcome that.
Yeah, when I was watching this with Blair, she's she asked me does he know this is a one-way trip? And when there's a scene towards the end of the movie where he's flashing back where the woman scientist says, look, man, if you care anything about these kids, you're going. And he's like, I'm not that guy. I'm not brave. And yeah, it's like him sort of resigning to his fate, but he kind of, as things go forward.
He doesn't resign. He actively is a coward.
Oh yeah, like he wants to run.
Like he, like the narrative, how they designed the narrative of this is through flashbacks, but at the same time moving forward. So the farther into the film you get, the more you have the parallel timelines showing what happened to get to the point of the beginning of the film, essentially.
Yeah, like
and in doing that, they keep your interest the whole way, but again, they don't linger on anything too long. And having the memory, it's not amnesia, whatever. It's like partial short-term memory loss of what's happening. At the beginning, he doesn't even really know who he is, or he knows his name
smart.
and everything.
Yeah.
but he doesn't realize how he knows the basics. Like, I am, like, when he sees it, I'm on a spaceship. I know what a spaceship is. I don't know why I know how to operate this spaceship, or what this is. But obviously I'm smart. I know math. And he's figuring these things out as he goes. So you sort of see who he is at his core. And it shows then that he doesn't. It's interesting to see that he's brave and outgoing and all these things when his whole like ego and like past history is stripped away. You see who he is at his core. He doesn't even know that he was a coward before, which I found interesting.
Yeah, I was really intrigued by that because, like, I there's a point where he's recording a video diary, which they ask him to record on the ship, and he's explaining Rocky doesn't know that it's a one-way trip for him, and he's like, for now, he talks about us going home and saving our planets, and he's like, I'm gonna pretend for a little while. There's no harm in that. And I don't know, much like what you said, Aaron, this movie is very much about the human condition. And I'm quite amazed by how much this movie got to me. Like, I'm caring for this puppet character, Rocky, who's the Iridian who meets him in the Tau Ceti system. And they're learning to communicate. They're learning language and how to read body language and everything. And it was just the little moments of those two characters bonding, which I found out that's all practical. There was no CG in Rocky. And I was like, that's really cool. And just them communicating and talking and watching a genuine friendship grow. The one thing, this is going to sound a lot of hyperbole, but this was a movie that I needed to see. And what I mean by that is, I needed to feel something uplifting despite all the horrible things that are currently happening in the world right now. There was something very wholesome about this experience that I did not expect to walk away from. So I guess, Alex, as I asked Aaron, what were your thoughts when you sat through this entirely?
Well, I had actually been meaning to see it when the first week it came out, and things got in the way, weather and health and things. I wasn't feeling the greatest, and I was like, I'll put it off. And then I kept hearing more and more once all the reviews had come out. I'm like, okay, so I can't really ignore this. I should see this on the big screen. And I saw it at the laser 4K screening here. So, and when I went, it was a few weeks into its run, and it was like middle of the day on like a Thursday or something. And the theater was still packed, and I was like, oh, so this has legs. Like, this is one of those word of mouth movies. And also when I went there, it was like, a lot of times during the daytime, if I go to the movies, you'll get the occasional person that's like off work or whatever, but it's usually me and old people, right? Because it's during the day, during a work week. This was like grandparents with grandkids, parents with kids, people on dates. It was all ages, and it's like, whoa, you don't usually see that for I would consider this a hard sci-fi movie in that it's not, space boom boom shoot shoot. It's not one of those.
Yeah, it's hard
It's not
sci-fi.
like because it's not like spectacle. Let's watch things go boom boom. And I was like, okay. And I'm watching this and I'm going, it's one of those movies where it's good because it can be over like, what is it? It's 2.5 hours long, but it feels like 1.5. Like at least 1
Very
hour
well
basically flies by. Yeah. So I'm watching this and I'm going, okay, and it's getting better and better as it goes. And I'm like, okay, I like this. Good visuals, yada yada out of the way. Plot, I'll may as well summarize it because we haven't really done, the basic plot points.
Yeah.
But the essentially, without reading it word for word or verbatim, it is there's a rumor at the kids at the beginning of the movie. You find out that Ryan Gosling is a teacher at a school. He's overqualified at a middle school. He's a science teacher, but he knows how to connect to the kids. The kids like him, and they ask him, it's ask me anything time. And the kids start asking about a rumor they had heard that something's not right with the sun, and turns out it's true. And they don't know why the sun itself is getting weaker. And we find out that within a few decades, the Earth will be uninhabitable on the surface level. And they're like, humanity will likely survive, but it will be a lot of deaths, a lot of ecology. Like, it will be a life that we don't necessarily want and will not be sustainable. People will basically have to live in bunkers or live underground, live off of geothermal energy, and food will become very scarce. We're talking an event where 90% of the population of the Earth will die because they just won't have the means to live. And it's like, holy shit. So from there, we find out that there's a project to they're trying to study what's causing it. And as we mentioned earlier, there's a bunch of what do they call them, astrophages?
Yeah.
Basically, they've discovered that life exists outside of Earth. It's like, yeah, but instead of like a yay, it's like yay in the moment. They're like, okay, why are they eating our sun? And we have some interesting, I'd say pretty practical, but also like interesting ideas of how to test what they're doing. Yada yada yada. They move forward, and there's going to be a mission to go deep into space that's going to take, I forget how many, what was it, 4 years or something?
4.5 years, give or take. Yeah.
And the idea is a crew is going to go up and they're going to go discover why one particular star is not affected. In like within so many light years around us, every star is dimming and dying except one. And they're like, what makes that resilient? Or is it like, they have no idea. It's like, is that star immune? Is something, an outside force stopping it? Is something from that area causing the other ones to have, problems? And they're going to train sort of the best international, it's
Armageddon idea.
Armageddon. Team effort, spare no expense. Every country is going to do it because we have to. Right, everybody has to get along, and just when they're getting ready to launch, contact happens. Remember that movie?
Yep.
Boom, and we end up losing basically the entire science team, and what you're left with is basically the reserves of everybody has to go. There's not enough time in the launch window to train anybody new. And Ryan Gosling is the only one that could do it. He kind of refuses, and they're like, well, sorry, you're not allowed to be a coward. And they basically sedate him, strap him in, put him into an induced coma, and then he wakes up, and that's why he has amnesia. And so that's the basic premise, just to get us to where we are. Goes up, and then the rest of the movie becomes, a little bit of him discovering what he is, a little bit about the people around him that were there, where he's going. He's figuring out how to operate all the machinery within their shuttle, and then encounters a very alien looking ship, and he's like, well, aliens are cool, but I can't be super surprised that there's aliens because this whole mission is started because we discovered aliens. But he's a little surprised to see that there's clearly intelligent, advanced life. And the rest of the movie becomes like a film about communication, learning about each other from the different alien and him, and then how do they communicate? Do they develop a language? You learn a little bit about how the differences of the cultures. Also, that Rocky, who he names, is a life form that doesn't see the same way we do. He sees through sound, and again, it's about them learning. And they're up there. I don't even know how long they're supposed to be there. The time passes, but I don't think they really show exactly how long it passes with them up there. But it's a significant amount of time where they end up learning each other's personalities, quirks. They talk about their backgrounds, where they're from. They try to figure out where how to communicate the differences and figure out what's going on. And then from there, I guess we could sort of discuss plot wise. I forget now because I saw it in theaters and I forget now. It's been a little bit. What was it that? Oh, they found another alien species, right? That ends up eating.
Yeah, yeah. It basically lives near a nearby star. So how the astrophage works, there's this thing known as the Petrova line, which goes from the star to a nearby planet, but no one can figure out why. It turns out there is some kind of a microbial life form in the upper atmosphere of this planet that can eat the astrophage and keep it in check, so to speak. So it's like a natural predator. So that's why this star is not affected. So Rocky and Grace start to figure out, like, okay, we have this information. What do we do with it? And eventually them working together and figuring out, they figure if they can replicate enough of these amoebas, they can bring them back to their home solar systems and develop.
Isn't it they synthesize or they a compound of based on what was the element that he named?
On gas? Rockinite or whatever, some bullshit.
Yeah, it was like Rocky's ship, and a lot of his technology is made out of metallic xenon. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I don't understand that.
Yeah, it was like it's like a metallic xenon gas.
And I mean, okay. At least his explanation, if they're going to go the goofy route that way, his explanation is it's metal. It can't be. Whatever, I'll just deal with it.
It works.
It's like it's metal. It's xenon, but it's metal, and he's like, it can't be, but it is, and it can't be. Well, whatever. I'll just deal with it. That's literally his response. Is like, what? It's no use trying to figure this out at this moment. We've got more important things to worry about. But he finds a way to work with Rocky and essentially, I guess, gene manipulate the predator so that it can. So they use the genes of the predator to like work with their metal to try to make a containment for it, I guess, as a means of storing
just to store it so they can bring it back to their home system.
They're going
to planets.
Yeah, they're going to transport it so that our planet can get it. And I guess eventually the idea would be, if we had the means or they had the means, whatever, save whatever stars that they can. But obviously our home stars first. And after more bonding times and some pretty harrowing events where they're trying to collect them and things go really bad, and where I'm going to assume Michael was starting to cry when he thought that Rocky was going to die.
Yeah, and so did Blair. She started getting the tears going. It's like, is he dead?
Basically, Rocky can't survive in our oxygen. I guess is it? I'm going to assume it has something to do with. They didn't really explain it, but I'm going to assume it has something to do with his
atmosphere. Yeah, he can only breathe carbon monoxide and something else.
Was it nitrogen or something? A bunch
Something like that.
They explained it in there, but basically his atmosphere is toxic to us, and vice versa, to the point where basically if he touches our our pressurized cabin, he'll start to burn up, like literally, he'll start to crumble underneath. He'll oxidize or whatever, and he sees that Grace is very hurt from, and we thought that he was probably gonna die. My assumption was, I thought the movie was going to end with Gosling dying and Rocky bringing the basically the cure to Earth, and arriving and being like, that's how it's coming. I thought he was going to come to Earth, and the people of Earth were going to be like making first contact, and then realizing that it's an alien that came to help us because of that. But anyway, it didn't happen. Rocky goes and saves both of them, essentially, but we think Rocky's going to die, and there was a underlying storyline current with it where in their species, when they sleep, they're basically shut down, so
they're paralyzed.
They're paralyzed, and they have they're the exact opposite of a cat, where a cat basically, even if it's sleeping, it's always aware of its surroundings. It's basically vulnerable to predators, so when they're sleeping, it's basically like they could be killed or die, or it's very rare. So it's so rare that they fall asleep. They always have to be surrounded by others of their kind, so that at least one or two of them can always be on watch. And it actually was, Rocky was very disturbed at first when when Ryan Gosling's character wanted to go sleep. He's like, no, danger. If you're sleeping, you're dead. Like, didn't understand that sleeping doesn't mean death to them, right? So in the very touching and moment where, again, people in my theater were crying, Michael, Susan, you're not alone.
Yeah.
I could hear some kids sobbing even. And I was like, oh man, yeah, this is getting to me. Gosling decides to just sit there. It's like, I'm going to watch over you, and just waits until, luckily Rocky lives and was able to regenerate in some form. But basically they're trying to find a cure. They are finding, quote unquote cure. They find it, they go their separate ways, and on the way home, Rocky had said that he was going to be able to calculated it, was able to spare fuel to get Ryan Gosling home, because as we said, the Hail Mary attempt was enough fuel to get out there and enough fuel to send back probes with all of the results that would hopefully help people on Earth, but it was always going to be a one-way trip. There was never going to be enough fuel to get home. And because they used the astrophage as fuel, which was interesting, to get to where they go. But on the way back, containment is breached. They realized that whatever organism had found a way to breach and adapt to the containment within the metal. And he realizes, okay, I've contained it. I can deal with this. But oh shit, Rocky's entire technology and ship is made of this material. It's basically, if I leave and go home, I'll save Earth. But if I go and help Rocky, I can save Rocky. Otherwise, Rocky is dead. And decides to send back all the research, all the information on the probes, and then goes, okay, resigns himself to, either I save Rocky or, I'll die trying. Saves Rocky, and we get the, sort of the final part of the film where it shows that it looks like at first that he's made it home, but he's actually on Rocky's home planet, and their scientists are very advanced. But one thing, a topic we'll talk about after, is how their science differs from ours. But they basically built a little biodome for him to live in while they found a way to repair his ship and using their technology and make it so that he could find its way back home to Earth. And while he's there, what's he become? Basically a middle school teacher teaching Earth science, and not just like Earth, not it's like, oh, I'm teaching about Earth. No, he's teaching like regular science. He's teaching our science to their kids, which is interesting because, again, it's mentioned that the science that they learn was different than ours. Not that it's fundamentally different to how the universe works. It's just that they mention earlier, he mentions offhand at least once or twice, that they had no knowledge of radiation at all.
That seems very strange to me. You're building spacecraft.
It was odd. It was like there were certain things, that certain parts of science and certain, I think there was something else he mentioned, but I'd have to look at the script. There was some fundamental science that is something that we would know even in high school, that they just don't. It's not like a topic of theirs that they ever even researched. Yet there were other things that they. So I understand what he was going for, is that not every species is going to come to the same conclusions for everything, or some things might be missed. We've seen stuff like that in Star Trek or in Stargate, where a species was very much could be like super advanced in biology, but really have no idea about chemistry. Something weird. It's something to that level. It's like that, and the reason Rocky's entire crew died was they had literally zero radiation shielding.
Yeah.
And it was like they just didn't realize it. And I guess maybe the idea could have been because of, you saw how resilient Rocky's species was, like when he was exposed to our environment, basically almost died, but they can regenerate if given, for the most part, enough time. It was just the amount of exposure, I guess, over the course of how long they were in traveling. And they live very, very long. It's not necessarily said exactly how long, but it sounds like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yeah.
They could live easily because, when Rocky says he's going to give fuel back, he's only going to lose like a few decades of time on his travel home, is what he said.
6 years.
And so, and he's like talking about how long he's been married to Rocky was married to his with his spouse or his partner mate. And he's like, it's not enough time. And, it's implied that they could live hundreds, maybe even thousands of years. So the concept was not as big. So maybe it's that they didn't study radiation because unless they were in like extreme amounts, maybe it just never really affected their bodies the same way. Right.
Yeah. Like,
or something.
What I thought was if they have no idea about radiation, how do they know where to go with this star? Because light is radiation.
Or I guess, like, if we wanted to nitpick it, they would probably hand wave it and explain it away as maybe they measure it in a different, not measure it a different way, but they call it something different. But maybe they just haven't studied certain radio waves or certain radiation rates or whatever it is. But that's the only thing that stood out to me as like, it was a scientific point that they made in the movie that seemed out of place, because I'm watching him like, that's the one part where I was like, how does he not know about radiation? Like, I could get maybe there was something else, maybe because their life form,
biology is so different from ours.
That they like, for instance, maybe it could have been like a War of the Worlds sort of thing, where maybe Rocky doesn't have knowledge of bacterium because viruses and bacteria, because he's not a squishy meat thing. You know what I mean? Like there would be a very different type of illness. Maybe a Borg was a species, whatever it was, that they couldn't assimilate, that sort of thing. There could have been something like that they could have gone with, but it did seem a little odd. I think that might have been a line or whatever they put in as something just to give to the mass, like, so that even kids would maybe get it, like a mass appeal sort of thing. They didn't want to get too into the weeds. But yeah, so he's teaching that on their planet, teaching the kids. He looks, happy as a pig and shit, basically. But he's a teacher again, and there's like a whole classroom of these kids behind a dome, outside of his environment, where they can, interact with them, and they look like they're super stoked to be taught by a super awesome alien. Like, how cool would that shit be if you're an alien and it's like, or you're on your planet and an alien's going to teach you about science? I'd be like, hell yeah. And then we get sort of the ending scene of the movie where the Earth has it's taken a turn.
Cooled. Yeah, it's definitely cooled.
It's still livable. Like, it's not been so long that it's terrifying, but it's livable. They don't really show, is this going to restart the sun or anything? But it ends with them going with an icebreaker ship through the ocean, which would be the only way at that point to serviceably ship like to basically transport anything across the Earth. You'd have to be using icebreakers, because I doubt that you'd be able to refine and use like fuel for big plane travel or anything anymore, right? So, and most vehicles like on land, you'd probably have to go back to using like dog sleds and stuff, because think about how much engine blocks would freeze if we wouldn't have had time to make the fuel different and everything. Lithium batteries, for electric vehicles don't work when it's, sub certain temperatures. But, if you're burning like coal or whatever, you can still use an icebreaker out there. But anyway, it ends with his reports going in, and it looks like they're getting ready to do what they can to implement it and hopefully save what we have left of the Earth.
Yeah,
and he's getting and it ends with him being told that his ship is ready. You can go home whenever you're ready now.
Yeah, that's one part I really liked about it, where he's talking with Rocky. He's on the beach in this manufactured biodome, and Rocky says to Grace, he's like, well, our scientists almost have your ship ready to go. You can go home when you want. And Grace says to Rocky, he's like, can I think about it? And Rocky says, I'd like you to think about it for a long time. And
yeah,
I think that's the thing that really touched me about this movie, is like, that's a genuine friendship. And I can't think of many movies that really get that bond right, that isn't like a romantic bond. Like, you don't see many bonds where it's friends, like bros, like literally
fully platonic out of nowhere. And on top of that, I don't know if you caught it when watching it, but the biodome, like the getting the water and getting the right amount of oxygen, getting the right weather and everything, all of that was created for him by Rocky's mate.
Oh, I didn't catch that.
Mentions he goes, yeah, the water, it was like the water was too hot or too cold, and Rocky goes, oh, I'll tell
Adrian, that's right.
Yeah, Adrian, to get it right next time. So Rocky is a scientist. Was he part of the maintenance crew or scientist, whatever it was? But Rocky's wife is also like a biologist, whatever, a big top scientist, and it's like, oh, I'm thinking, they get back. He's like, I'll bet you Rocky was like, so this is my human friend, and he basically saved my life. And they're like, okay, we're gonna build you a home while we figure out what's going on.
But yeah, like there's so much about this movie that I don't know. Like I said, I mean, science-wise, it's fun. I love the fact that they talk about like how the ship Hail Mary works. Like, well, these equipment wasn't designed to work in zero gravity, so how are we going to do that? Centrifuge, like butter. And they figure that problem out. They talk about like fuel, like there's just enough science in there that makes you think, which I think is pretty cool. But the science is set dressing to the story, to the relationship, and like I said,
condition.
Like, yeah, it's
condition.
It's honestly, it's a masterpiece to me, and I don't say that about many movies.
It doesn't say what went wrong with the other crew, does it?
I think they just died in their sleep, because it doesn't look like they suffered any massive trauma.
Malfunctions. They just weren't suited for the cryogenic sleep.
Like it was literally just like luck of the draw that he survived then.
Yeah. It's kind of like how in the movie Alien Covenant, they get close to a star and there's a neutrino burst, and that's what kills a lot of them. It's a radiation spike. So
it wasn't a case of sabotage, because I thought that was going to be one of those things where watching it, that it was like, are they going to pull the whole, oh, it's a doomsday cult, decided that they didn't want to live or something? So it was more of just malfunctions in both of their cases. It would have been interesting, had they had, mentioned or something, because this wasn't were those two supposed to be the lead crew that goes up? I don't think so. I think they were still the B team.
One was the pilot, one was the other science officer, and he was supposed to be, because there was
a scientist, a technician, and I don't think was there a medic, or supposed to be a medic? No, there was just supposed to be
science officer, flight officer, and then I guess a biologist, I guess.
Yeah,
something like that.
Something like that.
And they did a pretty good job. And I guess they died of some sort of exposure, and it was pretty rough. But he got a bunch of vodka out of it.
Yeah, which I thought was pretty funny. And
they smuggled it on in IV bags.
But it's like, one of the things that I thought was so interesting about this is like, he starts to work the solution. He's like, well, it's not like I can go home I guess I got to do what I got to do out here. And I don't know. I like the fact that, yeah, he is a coward, but he's like, okay, at least I got a job to do.
It's what was interesting to me as far as that is when he wakes up with no memories, he's not a coward. So it's not like what it shows is that it was not that he was innately born fearful or selfish.
It was a learned
that was a learned trait in his life that he, when he was stripped of his ego, it was gone. And, so it was very interesting to see how, he thinks he's not brave and blah, blah, all this. And, Rocky tells him how brave he is and everything. And you realize that, it was literally, that was a learned trait. So it was interesting to see that again, stripped down, he was a very brave, courageous person. He just didn't even know it.
Yeah, he just had to find it. Yeah, I mean,
I was trying to think, like, for Aaron, was there any other science stuff? Did you make any notes that popped out at you that were either good or terrible?
I don't know. I like the fact that they actually do talk about relativistic time effects, and that's why it only takes it took Grace only a specific amount of time to get to Tau Ceti, because Tau Ceti's like 11 point, trying to think, I think it's 11.9 light years away, but it only takes them like 7 years to get there. So
yeah,
that's relativistic time. Like the faster you get, the closer you get to the speed of light.
Okay. Well, and also, yeah, so it takes that long for the light to come from there to us, but if we're traveling towards it at the same time it's coming to us, is that the idea?
No, it's that the closer to the speed of light you get, the slower you move in time compared to the outside universe. So, like, yeah, if you get super close to the speed of light, you can, go from here to the Andromeda Galaxy and only age a couple years. But like that, like millions of years passes on the outside of your spacecraft.
But for you, it's a relatively short time. Yeah,
exactly.
So he gets there. I think it's 4.5 years is what it took, because he looks at it like it's 4.5 years. He gets there. It doesn't explain exactly how long he was there, but now, as far as timeline wise, he did technically have enough food for 3 people. So he had 3 times the amount of time that they thought he would have originally had to do it. That's why he would have had the ability to go home as well.
Because he wouldn't be taking over the oxygen, the O2 scrubbers. The stuff could, yeah.
Well, I think there was only enough food on there for a few months anyway, because they were in cryo the entire time. So I think he was probably trying to assume of going back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so there's that. And when they do show at the very end, I forget the name of the doctor. She's the German doctor, a scientist lady. So they were smart. They showed she had aged not like ridiculous amount. It looked like about 10-15 years older.
And see, she should have aged about 24 years at a bare minimum. Because light speed is light speed regardless of relativistic effects. So 24 years round trip from here to Tau Ceti and back.
And that would make I guess maybe they made her age maybe 20ish years based on the way she looked.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was asking about, 20 something or so.
And it didn't specify exactly when it was, I guess, for whatever reason, but they said that the Earth would be unlivable in 30ish years. I think it was 30 to 40 years. So at 20 years, you can see like we're still here, but it's getting pretty dire. But we still have the means to do it. Also, she got to see that there was success. So it would be interesting. That would mean that when he comes back, likely everybody that he knew would be dead. Except for unless they survived underground, the children that he was a teacher for.
Yeah, and then so it's however far away. I don't have in front of me, like I can get some charts out and try to figure it out, but I don't have in front of me how long it would take, or the distance between 40 Eridani and Tau Ceti. But since he goes to Rocky's homeworld, which is 40 Eridani, which by the way is where Vulcan is in Star Trek.
Oh, cool.
That's like about 16 something light years away, 16.2 or 3 light years away. So it would be a further 16 point whatever years to get from there to Earth. So by the time he gets back, you know, who knows? It's probably going to be like 50 years past on Earth.
50 years past, but for him,
maybe a year.
It would be maybe. Yeah, I was going to say, because they said, I think it was 4.5 years, so he would be about 9-10 years. So, you know, the weird thing would be waking up after and cry, like 4.5 years, depending on the age you are when you go, his body would not, if he was in suspended animation, cryo, whatever, you know, he wouldn't have aged too heavily. Obviously, you know, he had to shave and do everything, but on the way back, he would probably wake up and be like, why do I have wrinkles?
Yeah.
Things like that.
I mean, I like how they gave us that little bit of a detail, because I can't remember what book it was. It might have been a Star Trek book that I didn't work on, but I remember reading it when it talks about what Aaron was just mentioned, the whole relativistic time and how warp is somewhat dangerous and weird because you don't age, but everything else does. And I always have such a hard time wrapping my head around that.
Yeah, that was something I wrote in
thought
Star Trek Adventures, because it's at impulse. It's why impulse speeds are limited to like a third of the speed of light. And it's because as relativistic effects, you know, take over the closer to the speed of light you get, because theoretically impulse can just get you right up close to the speed of light, you know?
Yeah, because full impulse is just below warp 1, right?
No, full impulse is a third of the speed of light. It's there's like a limitation on it. And it's because, you can, hey, I'm going to go 0.999 the speed of light at impulse speed, but you know, you're going so fast that impacts from like dust and things are becoming a real problem for energy. You're getting like dosed with gamma radiation or in X-rays, hard X-rays. And the fact is that from an outside perspective, while you are moving super fast, you are not moving very quickly. The universe is actually like outside of your spacecraft is moving at 4 or 5 times the amount of speed that it is inside. So things are happening way too quickly. So you have a hard time responding to situations as they occur.
I never even thought of it like that. Yeah.
Relativistic time gets weird.
Imagine, Mike, if you're in an interstellar war, but everybody travels at near the speed of light, but not using some sort of like warp or gravity drive or something. The second you travel, the war's over.
Yeah, that that almost gives me an idea for something, actually.
Well,
I mean,
just don't make it into Andromeda with Kevin Sorbo.
Yeah, no. But I mean, looking at Project Hail Mary, I really hope it becomes a classic, and I think it will, honestly, because I think The Martian is still fairly well regarded. Same with this one.
I think the weird thing was, you know, all the marketing around it was talking about Amazon, and I think it's probably why people figured it was just going to hit Prime right away, but it's not. This is the first major movie, really, like it's MGM. But it's the first major movie released under the new name of Amazon MGM Studios. So previously, Amazon bought MGM, and they were operating like as separate sort of entities where MGM would release movies as MGM or MGM Classics, whatever they wanted to call it, under the sub-labels. And then Amazon would still release occasionally movies in theaters, but they were usually like 1 or 2 days, and they would hit Prime. But this is the first major project where it is under that new banner. So I think that was deceptive. So this is a regular classic, 100-year-old MGM company. This is a big MGM movie. And I think overseas Sony or somebody handled distribution, because MGM doesn't really have distribution out of North America anymore. Maybe a little bit of England, but it's good to see that Amazon is at least investing, because this was in production for like 5 or 6 years, but that they kept it in production. I guess we know that for all the evils that Bezos and giant billionaires that run these companies can be, we kind of know that he's a big sci-fi nerd at the top. So you might see big projects like this get greenlit, because I mean, he's the whole reason that The Expanse kept going, and a bunch of other sci-fi shows have been greenlit over at MGM and Amazon Studios is because of him. So I guess we can think that he's a super sci-fi nerd. So maybe we'll get more stuff like this, Michael, and that is thoughtful like this. It had a $200 and some odd million budget. And usually they say that it has to hit 500 million or so with marketing to break even. Not necessarily the case with something like this, because it is owned by one of the biggest 3 streamers. So I would suspect, like, it made, as of this recording, just shy of 580 million. Probably get a little more after that second IMAX run, or if it gets a third run again in the fall for Oscar season, because I could see that happening.
Yeah, like
some of the effects. This might end up hitting 600 million, which would be pretty fantastic. But this is the kind of movie that will drive people to subscribe. Like, this is going to go to Prime. Like, there's no reason this would go to any other platform. It's owned by Amazon, right?
Yeah.
So when it does, this is going to do well. I'm hoping that spurs more interest in making more stuff like this.
Yeah, like one of the things I decided to do a little bit of reading before we came on to today's show is because of Rocky's performance. I think the actor's name is Josh something. He technically would fall under supporting actor for his performance for this. And I think I guess it's obviously hard to say right now. It's May right now when you're hearing this. We're obviously not that far into the year in terms of great movies, but I hope this is strong contender for Oscar next year.
It was interesting because the actor that did the voice was not an actor.
Yeah, he was just like a puppeteer, and it just worked.
He's the puppeteer, and he did the placeholder voices. And it turns out that they just really liked it. Similar to, this has happened before with like Pixar films. Sometimes, I guess the best example, do you remember the movie Up?
I do, yeah.
There was the dog named Doug.
Yeah.
That was just a random animator.
That's funny.
Yeah, they needed somebody to read lines back and forth, and they loved it so much they used them. A similar situation here. I guess a little fun fact looking at it, you know how there's different voices that they cycle through?
I think one of them was Frank Welker. I'm almost positive it was.
No, it was the voices they cycle through before they settle on the Rocky voice. First one was Eunice Cuthbert, who was the film stunt coordinator.
Oh, cool.
Which again would have been somebody they were just reading lines back and forth from. But also Damien de Froberville. Sorry, that's a bit of a tongue twister for me. Who is the co-president of Sony Pictures Animation, who likely provided some of the special effects and there. Ray Porter, who was the audiobook narrator for this.
Oh, cool.
So they probably were testing that out as well, just to sort of see if they'd use the same guy. And then of course Meryl Streep.
Yeah, that she can do anything. That was such a fun little gag in there. I mean, it's nice to see Amazon take this seriously. And Amazon, I think, has had a pretty good track record of adapting sci-fi properties so far.
It's like, Amazon and Apple right now, man. Like,
yeah,
better than pretty much anybody else, which is, if you had asked me 10 years ago who makes the best sci-fi movies, it would not have been or sci-fi movies and TV. It would not have been the Apple Computer Company or the place that I buy my books from.
Oh yeah, for sure. Like Apple has really turned it up. I mean, we've talked about it multiple times, you and I, Alex, that All Mankind is one of the best damn shows on television.
I hope you guys do something on that.
We will. It's still airing. We're gonna talk once that's up. We'll have to set aside some time to do that, but because Michael, there's more than half a dozen sci-fi shows on Apple that are worth it, and with Amazon, it had been hit or miss. But they've been doing better. Like Fallout was interesting. They're doing a little more mass markety sort of stuff. But this, again, I'm hoping that this leads to more stuff. I know that the writer has this is his third book, I think. The second book,
Project Artemis. Not Artemis. I'm sorry, not Project Artemis. I forget what it's called.
Yeah, anywhere. Second book, I believe, has been optioned for a movie, and it's just taken a long time to.
It's just called Artemis.
Yeah, Artemis. You're right. I believe I'm just pulling this up right now. As of this film adaptation, it was in 2017, so 3 years before this one was even greenlit. It was in the works with Fox, which who knows where that's going. But since then, I believe it's still in the works, and there's been renewed interest. Well, obviously now there's been 2 hard sci-fi movies based on his works that have made $1 bazillion. So it makes sense. And we should close by saying there has been, an uptick, I think, in the interest in this kind of fiction. So, I mean, fingers crossed. Like, my final thoughts are it's worth watching for sure.
Absolutely.
When it hits home video, I'm hoping that this is a case, when it hits home video, that there's a whole ton of behind the scenes stuff, because I would like to see who they consulted, because there's obviously some science consultations with this.
Sure.
Nothing really stood out, other than when I brought up, they didn't know about radiation thing. It was like, that's the only thing where I was like, huh? Everything else, it was like, it seemed to fit.
Yeah, like, my final thoughts on this is this was the feel-good movie that I needed. And I've often talked on the show, whenever I watch a movie, my mood affects how I enjoy it. This was a movie where I left the theater feeling really good, like genuinely appreciative of the friendships in my life. And I know that may seem a little bit sappy and kind of whatever, but it was nice just to see 2 friends who cared about each other like that. And yeah, I mean, it's hard not to get choked up at moments in this. And I really hope when it comes out to home video, like you said, Alex, I want behind the scenes. I don't listen to many commentary tracks. Occasionally I do. This would be one I'd really like to hear. Just to hear all the insights.
Don't be surprised if there ends up being like plushies and toys made of Rocky.
I hope.
Because I kind of get this feeling that I don't think MGM was expecting the response they got from this becoming a family film.
No, not at all.
And there's been articles written about how it was such a wide audience. Like it's like they were targeting people in their 30s and 40s, but it's like all ages have been seeing this.
Yeah, like people just found it. I guess, Aaron, what are your kind of closing thoughts on this?
This is what makes science fiction good. This isn't about space battles. This isn't about crazy aliens melting through metal with their blood. It isn't anything like that. It's about exploring the human condition. It's about
Darth Vader came down from the planet Vulcan and said, if I did this, he'd melt my brain.
Exactly. It's about exploring what makes us us, and what makes us able to go into that future that we all hope for. Right? This is about somebody finding what's good inside themselves and then sharing it with others.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, guys, you need
only one moment where we have like human ignorance, lead to fear. And it's when he first encounters Rocky, he sees Rocky, it scares him.
Yeah.
And he runs away. And then after that, he realizes he's even like, I shouldn't be scared. Why, if it wanted, basically you can see, he's thinking, if this alien wanted to kill me, he could have done it way better than this. And once he figures that out, the hardest step was making that communication, that first contact. And then you fast forward 15 minutes and they're like listening to music, watching TV, hanging out as bros.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, folks, if you're hearing this and it's still the month of May, please do yourself a favor. Please go see this in the best possible format. Bring some Kleenex because you will have a moment.
We're not sure if it's going to be on home video by the time you listen, but it's already going back to theaters for a few weeks, I think, and you might catch it on a second run theater. It's worth it.
Yeah, it is absolutely 100% worth your time. Put your phone down, turn every device off. If you're in a movie theater, you should. But yeah, honestly, go out and see this. I do not think you're going to be sorry. And we'd love to hear from you guys. So if you guys want to get in touch with the show, you can email us feedback@thisweekingeek.net. I would love to hear your thoughts on this movie, because it would be just nice to hear from everybody out there. But speaking of that, coming up for the month of May, I know Alex and Aaron have a couple things planned. We are planning some evergreen stuff for the summer. We're going to be hearing more of our reviews of the Star Trek franchise in film format. We still haven't covered the Next Generation movies. We haven't covered the Kelvin timeline. And we're kind of starting to figure things out for Halloween. I know me and the Loose Cannon kids have got things kind of figured out over there. As of last week, you should have heard our special on Alien Covenant and Prometheus. We talk a little bit about Romulus, if I recall correctly, but that was to celebrate Alien Day, so go back and check that out. And yeah, I guess just keep it locked here to thisweekingeek.net. Aaron and Darlene will be doing more Earth versus Soups. I'm pretty sure there would be enough Earth versus Soup to take Grace to Cal's back.
Grace could probably listen while he's working up there and have plenty to listen to.
Yeah, Darlene and I tend to be very productive.
And that is
and
the workhorse attitude that I appreciate.
A lot of those movies are public domain, so he could have easily brought them up there, no problem.
So there you go, folks. So anyway, guys, for This Week in Geeks future Imperfect, we have been
Alex, the producer.
Oh, and I'm Aaron Pollyea.
And I am Mike the Birdman, saying live long and prosper. But as I've been saying most recently on most of our shows, be excellent to each other, especially during these troubling times. We'll catch you guys again next time, right here on thisweekingeek.net.
Computer, this is Captain James Kirk of the USS Enterprise. Destruct sequence 1, code 1, 1A.
Computer, initiate the self-destruct sequence. Authorization Janeway Pi 110.
Computer, this is Captain Benjamin Sisko. Initiate auto-destruct sequence. Authorization Cisco Alpha 1 Alpha.
Begin auto-destruct sequence. Authorization Picard 47 Alpha Tango.
Self-destruct in 15 minutes. There will be no further audio warning.
My lord, the ship appears to be deserted.
How can that be? They're hiding.
Yes, sir. But the bridge seems to be run by computer. It is the only thing speaking.
Speaking? Let me hear.
9, 8, 7, 6, 5.
Get out!
3,
Get out of there! Get out!
1.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
Thanks for listening to this episode of This Week in Geek. Hungry for more? Check out our website at thisweekingeek.net. You can subscribe to the podcast, browse our Twitter and Instagram, and leave your thoughts on today's topics. If you'd like to give us some feedback, send us an email at feedback@thisweekingeek.net. Tune in next time, and remember,
lower your shields and surrender your listenership.
We would be honored if you would join us.
Thank you for your cooperation. Good night.